Hi, this is Nick from AgriPest's. This is our first time doing or attempting to do a vlog. It's the way that the world seems to be going, so we're having a go at adapting. So, who are AgriPest's? AgriPest's is a small agricultural pest control company that specifically deals with agricultural pest control sites and rural towns and villages. So we look after residents that live within a countryside setting, ultimately. Now the pests that live within a rural setting are different to their urban counterparts. They have different feeding techniques, they have different breeding times. There's quite a big variant between urban rodents and rural rodents, believe it or not. So that's why AgriPest's 8 years ago set up AgriPest's, I suppose, to cater for the people that have pest-related problems within a rural and countryside environment. So the last 8 years we started off from nothing. It was just me on my own. We're still small, but we choose to be that way to make sure that we look after our customers. We don't want to grow too big that we lose that connection and quality. Within the last 8 years, there's myself, my colleague Sam, and my better half Jess that all work on AgriPest's, varying parts of it. In the past few years, we've won 4 awards for best agricultural pest controllers in the north of England and the best family-run pest control business in Yorkshire, which is an accolade we're incredibly proud of that we've worked really hard to achieve. So what do? We cover all aspects of pest control, which is slightly different to other pest controllers. A lot of pest controllers will deal with specifically domestic pests, so whether that be rats, mice, bedbugs, fleas, ants. AgriPest's cover all those, but we also deal with a lot of agricultural pests as well. So we do a lot of rabbit control, we do a lot of fox control, we do a lot of moles, we do corvid control, pigeon control. So there's quite a wide variety of different pest species that AgriPest's cover, which has gained us a reputation for being able to deal with problems that a lot of people find quite hard to deal with. We also specialise in large sites, so whether that be a farm or an estate or large swathes of land. AgriPest have all the equipment and tools to be able to cover these areas, like this purpose-built ATV that we use that will go basically anywhere. This machine gets used on a daily basis for checking traps on several of the estates that we manage. So yeah, we cover a huge breadth of different pest species, which makes our job really interesting. One day we can be dealing with flies, the other day we can be doing rabbit control. We never quite know what's going to be coming in, which again makes this job really interesting. So pest control is quite a divisive subject. There are a lot of people that have quite a negative outlook on pest control and what pest controllers do. AgriPest's, yes, although we are pest controllers, we are incredibly passionate about wildlife, but we understand that there is a fine line between killing animals and sustaining or making a sustainable environment for animals to live in. So a lot of the pests that we cover, we do as humanely as we can under all the rules that we're there to adhere to, and we work really hard to make sure that nothing suffers any more than it has to. We use all the modern up-to-date techniques, we use our experience that we've gathered over several years to make sure that the treatments that we do are faster and effective, and we turn down as many jobs as we take because we often will educate the customer on easy ways to deal with a pest problem without actually having to use rodenticides or traps or other methods of dispatching the animal. So a lot of those instances we can use what we call proofing, which is eliminating that pest species from being able to get into the property in the first place. So if, say, a squirrel isn't living in a loft, it's just frequenting the loft on a rare occasion, then we'll advise that the hole that squirrel's using gets proofed off to prevent the squirrel from being able to gain access into the property, which reduces the risk of us having to come in and do a treatment. So we do work really hard to not just go around destroying wildlife. You know, we played a big part in managing the wildlife and trying to be as sustainable as we can. For the past 5-6 months has been incredibly challenging for thousands of businesses up and down the UK, and the pest control industry has been in a bit of a unique situation in that we were given key worker status quite early on during lockdown, which allowed us to continue doing our work to ensure that people's properties were kept safe from pests. The last thing you want is to ignore a squirrel in your loft or a rodent in your loft, and those pest species be chewing cables or creating bacterial trails with them. So we have been working during lockdown. We have seen a bit of a downturn on the physical pest control side of things. Because businesses haven't been open, they haven't been needing pest control, or they haven't been seeing pest control problems. So we have noticed about a 30% downturn in work over the course of the last few months. But we've been doing a lot of COVID-19 disinfectant treatments. So we've utilised the equipment that we already have, which in our instance is called an Exodus ULV machine, which the simple way of explaining it is this machine, it turns a liquid into a mist. Now that mist gets in all the nooks and crannies of a building and normally deals with fly issues. But for the COVID treatment, we've been able to put disinfectant through the same machine, which has been disinfecting buildings that could have potentially had COVID-19 people within it, people that are carrying the bacteria transaction, and maybe touched the surface whilst they've had this virus. The disinfectant treatment that we've been doing can negate that under the right circumstances. So we have been busy over the past few months doing that, amongst other things, other general pest control jobs. Why are AgriPest's different to other pest control companies? Well, we're not necessarily better than other pest control companies, but we do tend to go down a bit of a different route. So, as discussed earlier, we are not the agricultural pest controllers, so we deal with farms, equestrian yards, estates, rural towns, rural villages, where the pest species can behave differently to their urban counterparts. So, on a day-to-day basis, I would say that 80% of the work that we do is rodent-related this time of year. So now that the harvest has been done, the crops have been cut, and the colder weather's starting to come on, the rodents are starting to look for places to hunker down over the winter, which can often result in them moving into people's properties. Obviously there's a conflict of interest there, having rodents in a loft. As I said earlier, they can cause damage and they can spread disease. So it is quite important that these processes are managed correctly. So we're also coming up to the cluster fly season. We're in September now. As soon as the weather starts getting a bit colder and we know that the cluster flies are inside, AgriPest will be doing cluster fly treatments using the ULV machine. This, if done at the right time of year, can be incredibly effective and can often only result in needing one treatment. We know that a lot of pest controllers will do several treatments, but we find doing it at the right time of year can bring really positive results. We're also coming up to a really busy time of the year for us, which is rabbit control. So AgriPest, we used to use a product called aluminium phosphide, which was a gas that got put down the warrens, which dealt with the rabbit population. However, we found that this was becoming less successful due to environmental conditions, but also we found that we were putting a lot of gas down holes and there weren't necessarily any pest species or any rabbits down that hole. So we were potentially putting toxic substances into the ground for a short period of time, but when we weren't actually doing any benefits for dealing with the pest in question. So AgriPest's have now resorted to going down the traditional method, which is using ferrets. Ferrets have been used for hundreds of years for rabbit control. It's a very simple, laid-back approach to rabbit control. So the ferrets have a natural ability to be able to smell rabbits down a warren. They're also perfectly sized to be able to pick down rabbit warrens and seek out the rabbit, cause the rabbit to bolt out of that warren where we're waiting with purse nets or long nets. We have a variety of different nets that we can use. And as soon as that rabbit gets caught in the net, we can instantly dispatch, which causes a minimum amount of suffering for the rabbit, which, again, like I said earlier, is what we're trying to achieve at AgriPest. So we've started working our ferrets over the past few weeks just to try and get them in good health. I would expect, I think the first frost is due on Sunday, and that's when the overgrowth will start dying back and we can start doing our ferreting work, where we can see the warrens, we can see where the ferrets are working, we can see where the rabbits are bolting, and also the nets that we put down can get put down more effectively when all the overgrowth and nettles and shrubs have been killed off with the frosts. So, throughout the winter we'll be doing several other jobs, I imagine. Rodents, rabbits, we'll be doing fox control, I imagine. We'll also be doing pigeon work. We have quite a large pigeon job booked in for a large supermarket and train station in West Yorkshire in the coming weeks, which I'm sure we'll have a good go at doing a vlog about if this isn't slammed down. But we are in a changing phase. The world, the industry in general is changing, and we're all trying to work out a way of adapting. We're not used to vlogging. We don't spend time in front of cameras. It's not what we do. Our focus is dealing with pests, but we also know that it's important for customers to know who a pest controller is and what to expect when someone comes around to their property. And we would always suggest that when choosing a pest controller, you have a really good conversation with them and find out whether they're right for you and whether that company are fully aware of how to deal with the pests that are bothering you. A good pest controller should always have the time to speak to you on the phone. So never rush into choosing someone because the price sounds right, or they can get to you that day, or some other mitigating circumstance. Always choose the right contractor. So I'm going to sign off now. I'm sure you've probably heard enough of us. We'll post this video up and see how it's received. Like I said, go easy on us. This is our first vlog. We'd love to hear what you guys think. We'd like to know what you'd like to see the AgriPest do. We're more than happy to show you the work that we carry out on a day-to-day basis if you let us know what it is that you'd like to see. We're always on the other end of the phone for a chat. You can also visit us on our website, which is www.agripestmanagement.co.uk, or you can email us at nick@agripestmanagement.co.uk. Like I said, we'd always love to hear from you. If you've got any questions or if you've got any work that's required doing, then please get in contact and we'd be happy to help. Thank you very much for watching and taking the time to listen to me witter on. I hope this has been of some use to you and quite enjoyed doing it. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.